My high school experience was Southern Ontario, 70s, mid-70s, in a small town, 6,000 people. I often say 5,999 straight people and me is what it seemed like. My own high school experience, I was privileged enough, really, to be in a place where I had some musical talent. So I played trumpet for a stage band. I happened to have a little bit of athletic ability and was on the basketball team. So I had some places where I was achieving, which I know is really helpful when I reflect back, compared to some students who are marginalized because of sexual orientation and also don't have the capability or possibility to grow in leadership and in participation in their school. So I would say that my experience really had that blessing of both a high level of participation, pretty good level of achievement. My own grades might not have been reflective of, as to how smart I actually was, but I did actually make it through school in a way that did not leave me bruised too much in terms of physical or verbal assault. Homophobia was very quiet then, and that is really one of the key differences to how it presents itself now in high schools today. I mean, the statistics show that 26 times today LGBTQ students will hear homophobic slurs. That's not quiet. And my experience was I have a remembrance of somebody calling out lesbian friends or something insinuated in that. But I think that I was pretty unscathed when it comes to, I had popularity perhaps that left me freer to be a little bit who I was, although I was not out at any means. But we didn't hear faggot being yelled down the hallways. I certainly didn't, and I didn't hear the kind of language that I hear today. When I talk to students who share their experiences about what they do hear in their hallways and in their classrooms, that goes largely uninterrupted by the faculty. So I'd like to share two quick stories about young people and the impact of positive space groups in their lives. And the first is, of course, the story of somebody who identifies as part of the LGBTQ community. When I met her after a speaking engagement at a high school, she came up to me afterwards and had told me about her struggles with anxiety and depression, and she hadn't known why she was feeling this way. So she'd gone to her doctor and was immediately prescribed some antidepressants, but there was no talk about what the actual underlying reality was that was leading to this sadness. After my talk, she came up to me and said, I know now what the issue is. I know that I identify as a lesbian, and I can't tell anybody. I feel my friends want me to have a boyfriend. I feel isolated and alone. I don't want a boyfriend, and I can't explain that. My parents are pressuring me. She didn't feel she could even go on to college, even though she'd been accepted. She was thinking of denying it, the acceptance, because of how she was feeling. After we talked for a little bit, and she came out and we shared stories. I told her about having a boyfriend in high school. I didn't really have a boyfriend in high school, but I had a boy whose hand I held when I needed a boy to be present for me, sort of thing. We shared those sorts of stories, and she came out in a way that you could just see immediately was freeing for her. A few months later, I saw her on the street in downtown Hamilton, and I asked how things were going. How was she doing with the depression? Were the antidepressants helping? Because I have a lot of concern about people being overdiagnosed with depression without dealing with some counseling issues first. And sure enough, she said, Deirdre, I never took those pills. In the end, I wasn't depressed. I was a lesbian. I just needed to talk about it. And I'm fine, and I'm going to college, and everything is great. That's one great story about the reality of the impact of positive space groups. The other that I can't let go is the story that just happened last Thursday on the International Day Against Homophobia, and I was in a local high school in a small town, and one of the students in the audience, I walk around with the microphone, he took the microphone and he said, positive space groups and this conversation have been important to me because I have two sisters and they both identify as lesbians. I'm straight, but the hassle and harassment that I face from other students who assume that I must be gay has been difficult. And the positive space group and seeing that teachers support this initiative have made all the difference for me. And so he came out as a guy who's straight but who has a lesbian identified sister. That is the reality. We don't know who's in our classroom, and we have to stop making assumptions and trust that creating equitable and inclusive space for all students is going to impact all students.